Hello, still some uncertainties this week with the first Trump-Clinton debate tonight, as well as negotiations between the major oil producers currently ongoing. We believe there could be a bit more uncertainty in the markets this week before accelerating up into October. We will first start with the weekly chart of Euro-Dollar on our Fingraphs.com platform. The weekly chart gives us the perspective over the next few quarters. At the moment, we are still in a downtrend on Euro-Dollar, and there is still potential to lead us back below 110, possibly down below parity. Yet, the consolidation has been going for almost a year and a half and hasn't produced this reacceleration down. We now believe that we are getting towards oversold territory, and every week that passes diminishes the likelihood of this last move down. Indeed, our daily chart is already heading up, and it's not yet an overbought. It is still pointing to possible targets above 115, possibly up to 118 over the next few months. Looking at the hourly chart or the perspective over the next few weeks, we're in a neutral bear, meaning there's a bear but no downside targets. We had a sell-off until mid last week, which ended with an oversold situation. Prices are currently reacting up, which could be the first stages of this reacceleration of the Euro-Dollar to the upside. If we look at the overall picture, we're still in a bear on the weekly chart, but we believe it's getting unconvincing and oversold. We have been starting moving up on the daily chart, and there still is some potential in price and as well as on our risk indicator. And the hourly is now in a neutral position, possibly starting to head up. With the negotiations this week between major oil producers, it's important to look at oil, and here we have the weekly chart on Brent. And as you could see, the move down since 2014 created a situation of oversold on our risk index as well as stress on our envelopes. The targets we had envisaged were fulfilled, and oil on this weekly chart is now attempting to turn up. The daily is already in an uptrend. It saw an initial oversold situation here in June, yet the consolidation has remained pretty tame since then. We believe that this consolidation could be coming to an end. Our risk index is slightly turning up, and the potential targets for this next move could be above 53, possibly above 60. The hourly chart had a first attempt up into the corrective target and is currently retracing on the uncertainty. We will hence remain prudent, at least during this week still, before we can envisage an acceleration up. Looking at the general picture, it's still a downtrend, but it's pretty much exhausted on the weekly charts, and we're heading up on the daily and are attempting to create a base on the hourly. It is at the moment labeled as a potential pullback in what is still a long-term downtrend, yet we believe it could turn into a continuous uptrend with all three frequencies turning into a bull over the next few weeks. Reking at the S&P, we've had a breakout at historical levels during the third quarter. This breakout was retraced, and we believe that the S&P is now trying to move higher again. The risk index is still not in the overbought and still has some potential up. Our targets, impulsive targets, have been fulfilled, but we believe we could now go into our impulsive 2 targets, which could lead us 15 to 20% higher over the next few quarters. The daily is also heading up, and potential targets could lead us above 2200, possibly up to 2280 over the next few months. We've had an intermediate top. It's correction, it's been quite shallow, and we believe that prices could now accelerate up again. On the hourly chart, we've had this initial move. On the Nasdaq, for example, we made new highs. On the S&P, we pretty much came to the previous low volatility levels that we had during August. We are seeing a retracement. In worst cases, we believe we could probably retrace down to the envelope, so around 2130. But in general, we're still in an uptrend, and this uptrend could lead us higher into October. If we look at the general picture, it's still 3 bulls or a potential continuous uptrend. Now looking at gold, gold has corrected up from late last year. We believe it follows commodities up. It has benefited from very favorable conditions with a lot of uncertainty in the beginning of this year, and it has now come into its corrective targets on this weekly chart. We believe it's going to need a lot of momentum to be able to break above these and create an impulsive move up. And in this case, we believe there's strong resistance above 1400, between 1400 and 1430. The daily is also in a slight consolidation, but to the downside. It has been pretty shallow. It hasn't reached its corrective targets. It may be in a position to start resuming its uptrend. If we look at the hourly, this new move up has potentially started, but we believe we could still see some uncertainty during this week as the risk index is approaching overbought. More generally, we are in a correction up on the weekly. We haven't gone into impulsive mode up on the weekly yet, and we believe there's strong resistance above 1400. That said, the correction that we have seen on the daily has been quite shallow, and we could yet be ready for a new move up into these 1400s. The hourly has possibly started this move, but very overbought conditions on an oscillator could bring a few days of uncertainty until this move actually materializes. And that's all for this week. Thank you very much.